"Fire!" roared Newton with an unspeakable fury. And one strong red beam of energy shot down from the sky and landed on the absorber's force field, shaking and thundering the area all around it, causing the people in the area to scream and dart about. Only the most faithful continued to circle as close as the force field would permit. The structure was the only thing located out in the desert with them. Although the force field was transparent, it started clouding up a little near the top. Suddenly, a big area of land began to indent, while another area began to rise. Within a minute, Bob, standing 1,000 feet high, roared its Godzilla-like roar with fury. Giant, jagged boulders dotted the desert. The 100-foot-tall Golden Dome was out among. Bob yanked up one of the jagged boulders and threw it in the direction of where the beam was shooting down from. Newton laughed when he saw Bob on the viewing screen do such a thing. Newton laughed again when Bob picked up and hurled another at the sky. "How close to the absorber does Bob think we are?" wondered Callisto. "We are as far above him as one stands above an ant snapping its jaws in vain," smiled Newton. "You don't think it actually believes its lies about the sky being a well-guarded canopy, do you?" Bob tore up another mountain-sized boulder and threw it at the sky, making Newton laugh again, saying, "How Nimrodic." Suddenly, when they saw Bob tear up and throw another mountain-sized boulder and throw it at the sky, Mutainia shook violently. "What the hell?" shouted Newton. "Did he actually reach us?" Mutainia shook violently again. One of Newton's crew shouted out, "Newton, we're being attacked." Put on shields," shouted Newton. It turned out that the Federation starship with the robot captain was attacking Mutainia again. "Divert power to the shields," shouted Newton. And with that, the attack on the absorber of life ended. On the planet, the people were facing it again. The damage to its force field Mutainia had brought to it was quickly fading back to normal. "We're getting a call from the robot captain," said Sheena. Put it on visual, demanded Newton. When the face of the robot captain came on, he was begging Newton to stop any further attacks on the Golden Dome of Ramada and turn himself in to Federation authorities. It turned out that the Federation was quite familiar with the reality of the oppressive life absorber, but that the planet Ramada, as far as they knew, was only oppressive to the Patamars and not to any other inhabitants. "But it's evil," Newton countered with. The robot captain laughed Newton to scorn and shouted back that there were no moral absolutes, and that Newton was the one infringing on the rights of Ramada to feed on the Patamars. The robot captain asked Newton if he hadn't tried to talk and negotiate with Bob first, to see if he could get Bob and the Patamars to work out a deal first where the two could live more comfortably together. Where instead of absorbing the Patamars' energy twice a day, that maybe they could get it down to once a day. Besides, argued the robot captain, Newton was still property of the Federation, and because of that, he needed clearance and authorization before ever thinking of using any kind of weapon. As the robot captain went on, sounding like an escapee from a UN debate team, the Mutainia crew noticed it was now surrounded by most of the ships it fought with. The Mutainia crew noticed that they were now surrounded by most of the ships they fought with before they entered the planet's orbit. Newton then looked at the robot captain on the viewing screen and said, "Blast your Federation red tape. Mutainia will free those people down there from that satanic god." "Thou shalt not," shouted the robot captain. Newton, remembering that the robot said it was programmed to counter all his desires, responded with, "Just don't attack Mutainia with phasers, okay?" As the robot captain commanded all to use phasers, Newton quickly pressed some buttons dealing with Mutainia's shield system. Newton got the news from his crew that in order to be more successful in their attack, they'd have to be far closer to the absorber. "How much closer?" asked Newton with a look of fear in his eyes. "A mile at least," said Callisto. With that, Newton and crew With that, Newton had Mutainia taken down out of the planet's orbit and into its atmosphere. On the planet, Bob, who had his patootie up in the air in prostration to the energy absorption that was doing the opposite with him, heard a roar in the sky. The bluish beam from the absorber shut off. Bob looked up and saw Mutainia approaching down through some scattered clouds. With that, fury entered the eyes of Bob again. Bob beat his chest like a giant ape and looked about for another mountain to send at Mutainia. "Fire!" shouted Newton. The powerful red-colored energy beam lanced out and struck the force field of the Golden Dome absorber again. With it, a cry from the robot captain filled the bridge of Mutainia, being that his voice was still being broadcast through Mutainia's audio receiver. He yelled out, "No, please, stop! Stop, I say! I command thee!" And a powerful phaser beam shot out of all the ships and struck Mutainia, shaking the crew about violently. But the red energy beam of Mutainia continued to bear down on the Golden Dome. "Newton, look out!" screamed Sheena with terror. Another mountain-sized boulder was flying right at Mutainia after being launched from the arms of Bob. "Evasive action, quickly!" Newton shouted, and Mutainia quickly flew to the side, having the huge boulder just miss it by mere feet, throwing the crew from their seats as the ship veered quickly to the side. And again the energy beam of Mutainia fixed itself on the force fields of the absorber. "Stop!" shouted the robot captain. "I command thee!" And Mutainia was struck with phaser fire from those ships safely out in orbit, shaking the Mutainia crew about again. And again the mighty ship dodged another flying mountain of a boulder thrown from Bob, causing all of Mutainia to grab on tightly to anything to keep from flying. "Stop!" And the crew of Mutainia was hit again. It was thrown again. "Stop!" Mutainia was hit again. "Stop!" All the phasers were left on Mutainia, but the shields of Mutainia held while on the planet. There was hardly any force field about the giant golden dome of the absorber. Newton looked at the robot captain on the Mutainia viewing screen and shouted, "You can send your best down on Mutainia like thunderbolts from Zeus, but I'll not let up on that monster down there. Continue, my crew. Fire!" And Mutainia now had two energy beams focused on the structure. They were now far more powerful than the one that was in the beginning of the attack on the dome. For Newton had Mutainia's shields changed to absorb the energy of the attacking fleet to increase the power of Mutainia's weapons. The creation of two beams bearing down on the Golden Dome startled everyone, including the robot that ordered the attack on Mutainia. I've got to end it here.